First thing we're going to go over is screen delay. When doing dressage, screen delay is a big factor, as most of you probably know, and in instructing it is as well. When calling moves, you always want to call them about 1 second or so earlier than you think you should, because everyone, even if they go on go, are going to do the move you call a second or so after you call it on your screen. A good example for this is fate. A fate is a curl one way, then curl the other. In Dark Woods Nation, we call go every time you switch your direction or change your gait. For a fate, there would be 2 goes. For the second go, you would call it about here. As you can see, they haven't finished the curl yet, but they will hear the go as soon as they finish the curl on their screen.
And go. Oops. Wait. So horrible at this.
Another good example is in rain. You would think you should call it about here, but especially for rains, you should call it way sooner than you think you need to. You should call it about here, and this is how it would end up looking. You should keep this technique in mind for practically every move. Next, we're going to be talking about pronunciation and being clear when commanding. When commanding, it's very important to be understood when you are talking and to have a very clear voice. Obviously, if you have a really bad mic, it might not be the best to command with it. But if your mic is better on your phone, which a lot of times it typically is. If you don't have a real mic on your computer, however, I recommend commanding through your phone. But you still can command with a bad mic. It's just better to have a mic where you are very understood with. Although outside of mic quality, there is a few key factors of being understood when commanding. In Dark Woods Nation, we recommend that you are calling out the moves you say 2 to 3 times before you say go. For example, curl set, go. This is due to if your mic cuts out for someone who is in your line, or if someone didn't properly hear you correctly the first time, they have a second or third time to make sure they understand what move you were talking about. Now, these next few tips depend on what level of dressage you are teaching. As for example, we're going to go through some tips I give out to our beginner levels. Especially when you are teaching beginners, it's important to drill the basics into their heads as firmly as possible. As if they go up ranks in a club, they will always need the basics, and as they learn harder and harder dressage and harder ranks, they go over basics less and less. So it's important to make sure you use the time they are beginners wisely. When we teach our beginners, even if they have been a beginner for a while, before we do any moves, we go over gaps, as in OT and NTT. But I always start out with reminding them of OT and NTT gaps. You constantly want to remind beginners of little basic things, as in gaps and timing and anything related. It will pay off, as when they do harder skills, you won't have to remind them of their gaps and timing as much. Make sure again we're in OT gaps here. In 2 lines we're going to NTT gap, but remember OT gaps are. Remember now we have to have NTT gaps, so nose to tail, wiggle if you need to. And finally, as an instructor, you have to remember that although you are in charge, you need to give your members or whoever is in the line a voice as well. And although it is personal choice, I don't suggest ever getting extremely brutal towards your line or anyone in your club. Being strict is one thing, but remember it is a game at the end of the day and it is about having fun. There's a lot about instructing that you cannot learn from a video, and a lot of aspects of instructing is an art, and you can paint your art however you'd like, and I encourage you to do so. But remember, becoming a good instructor does not happen overnight. It comes from a lot of practice and dedication. But all in all, at the end of the day, just remember to have fun with what you're doing. Caught up in my tape.